Let's keep politics live, as I said. So without further ado, would you please give a warm welcome to Paul Moulton and our two candidates tonight.
Thank you, Roger. And it's really, really lovely to see a pretty well full house here, which is fantastic, because obviously there's been quite a lot between the gentlemen here already. Oh, goodness, thank you. So, as you know, the format is we're going to have them go over to there and talk to you initially, read out some of their highlights, and then it's over to you. And it really is, I don't do much hopefully tonight. You've got questions, we'll have a microphone that goes in front of you. You are being recorded, but we won't turn cameras on you, so don't worry too much about that. So, gentlemen, I don't know who wants to go first? Yeah, go on. That's simple, just delegate, that's the way to go. So, out of Cannan first of all to, up to what time, I don't know how long you need, but as long as you want, really, I suppose. See how you go.
Well, it'll be less than 15 minutes, Paul.
Perfect.
Per the
instructions.
Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone, and great to see you all here today. It's now been just over 2 weeks since the island went to the polls and the community brought together a refreshed and renewed House of Keys that includes a record 10 women to fundamentally alter the gender balance and, if my maths is correct, in total, including the women, 10 new MHKs in total have been elected. This is great news for our island, and what an opportunity now exists for us to harness the collective will and passion of this new House of Keys to deliver better government for our society, to change and refresh the often cumbersome Tynwald, to break down barriers to public service delivery, to refocus our finances and to re-energise our economy. That is why I have set out in my vision for Chief Minister the framework for a secure, vibrant and sustainable island, because now is the time to put in place the framework for better government by enhancing the way we go about our business as politicians, enhancing our policy debates and strategic thinking, enhancing our accountability and transparency, but most of all, enhancing our delivery as one government for one small but proud island nation. We should annually debate our island plan in a full and frank manner on the floor of Tynwald. Ministers must be accountable, and that is why they should be prepared to publicly account for their actions now by reporting and on delivery and on future intentions in a public and transparent manner. And that's why I'm also proposing an annual public conference for this government to drill down to the heart of the issues with the people that really matter. But shaping policy is one thing. I know that delivery matters, and that this island is getting increasingly frustrated about the delivery of core services and infrastructure projects. We can and must do better, but the House of Keys and the public need to know also that they are investing in someone for whom not only this matters, but someone who is capable of delivering on the vision that they state and set out in their manifestos. 5 years ago, I stood here in this very spot and spoke about the challenges facing the island at that time. The cost of living crisis, the numbers leaving the island, wage stagnation, the cost of utility bills, and the need then to re-energise our economy, hoping to persuade Tynwald to take a different route. I didn't quite make it last time, but here's the rub. I set out in my role as Treasury Minister to do the same, to fulfil that vision, to deliver on my promises to you. And that's why I put together with Treasury and like-minded colleagues a 5-year financial plan for the island that did support hard-working families, that did create job opportunities through targeted business investment, and sought to create greater fairness in society. That's why I significantly increased personal tax allowances, helping people to deal with the cost of living. That's why we increased vital benefits such as child allowance to help support our hard-working, low and middle-income families. That's why we increased preschool credit values to bring more support to young parents. That's why we raised maintenance thresholds for university students from low-income families and mirrored the triple lock commitments for state pensions for our elderly, initiated the Sir Jonathan Michael review into healthcare, leading to the establishment of Manx Care to try and overcome some of the problems that we were facing with our health services, delivered a defined and targeted 5-year capital investment programme to support infrastructure and indeed jobs across the island, instigated and commissioned work into a new economic plan for the island, written off £95 million of the MUA debt to stabilise utility prices for our people, introduced pension freedoms to give you choice and control over your retirement savings, and purchased the Isle of Man steam packet to bring security and control to our island's strategic ceilings. And 18 months ago, it fell to me to lead and put together the most comprehensive package of support and state intervention ever seen in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Working together with MHK colleagues over 4 intense days, drawing on their views, their collective spirit and their experience. The unique packages that we delivered based around salary support, business support schemes and a Manx earnings replacement allowance have helped protect and support thousands of jobs and businesses and families across this island. And following all that, I created the Economic Recovery Group to direct the spending from a Tynwald approved Economic Recovery Fund to protect jobs, stabilise the economy and invest in our future. Today, unemployment is at record lows and we have a strong financial platform to recover from COVID. But delivery matters. It matters to me, it matters to you, and I'm proud that when it mattered and the Treasury delivered. But I'm not so naive so as to stand before you today without admitting that government can do better, that there are areas for significant improvement, that a more focused island plan is needed for the next 5 years, and one that focuses on outcomes and deliveries. It is absolutely vital that the new government delivers as early as possible a refreshed, targeted and measurable island plan, and that this plan is properly and fully costed. Across all areas of society, local or national, there are important issues that need to be carefully and considerately addressed over the next 5 years. Economic growth and job creation clearly remain at the forefront of providing us with the security that we need to maintain and improve our island home. But alongside that, we must now carefully balance out the need for us to address the global climate change threat whilst maintaining sustainable public finances. Other vital matters include a changing global tax agenda, the delivery of healthcare across the generations, an urgent need for new affordable housing, and a COVID recovery plan and response plan that includes a strong focus on education. And let me be clear, we cannot tackle our major social issues or improve our citizens' lives without a strong economy and also without ensuring that we have a robust but responsible financial plan for the future. And looking at all these challenges, you may find it unusual for a Treasury Minister not to want to be slightly pessimistic when it comes to the future, to use words like challenge and caution. But the truth is, these challenges are also opportunities. Opportunities to deliver a better, class-leading healthcare system. Opportunities to deliver a greener, cleaner island. For new technology and enterprise. Opportunities for tourism and leisure. To develop new markets. And opportunities to build more sustainable towns and villages. There is a decade of opportunity in front of us, and Tynwald must rise, not only to meet the challenges of the day, but to deliver on our opportunities. We now need a focused island plan with simplicity at its heart and the requirement to deliver essential services to a high standard that sets out a core policy and delivery framework that will allow for better outcomes from government services to meet the needs of our people and to deliver on the ground and to the front line and to contribute to the future success of the island. That is the framework my manifesto sets out. That is what I'm seeking to deliver through inclusive and listening leadership. I know this island can succeed, that we can deliver, that there is an opportunity now to harness the collective political will for the common good. I stand before you today, ready to build a secure, vibrant and sustainable island for our island nation.
Allison.
Right, first of all, thanks very much to PAG for organising this meeting. As you were talking about raw politics, I don't think there's very many jurisdictions where you get the two potential chief ministers standing in the Legion to actually state their case. And it's important because you're the people who matter. Cannan and I have been doing various things over the last 48 hours, and Paul asked, how many times have you done hustings? I've actually forgotten. because yesterday we did Max Radio interview, which hopefully went out live, did some interviews with Sam Turton for Jeff as well, and then last night did a televised interview. Unfortunately the streaming wasn't brilliant, but it got out there. And what this shows is a real commitment to interact with people, because you're the people who matter. You're the people who put politicians here in the first place. Unfortunately, the hustings that really mattered most to us was the one this morning in front of all the MHKs, because they're the ones who count in terms of the ones who are able to vote. So let's get the elephant out of the room to begin with. Is the way we choose the Chief Minister on the Isle of Man the best way possible? Well, it's the one we've got at the moment. The two of us will be standing up in Tynwald tomorrow and we'll be asking for 23 people, our constituency, to actually vote for one of us to be the Chief Minister. Is that the best way of doing it? I don't think so. But what we've been seeing over, particularly the last 5 years, is an evolution of our parliamentary process. Tomorrow, it will be MHKs, the elected representatives of the constituents who vote for the Chief Minister, not the MLCs. That has to be a step forward. But can we do better in 5 years' time, or however many years it is until we elect a new Chief Minister? Because Daphne Kay, who's in the audience, managed to change some of the rules in terms of no confidence votes. So it's no longer a super majority, it's an overall majority. Things are changing, things will continue to change, and we need to embrace that. Coming back to what we're talking about today, manifestos, I've got a couple of copies there, but I'm not going to talk for 15 minutes because the main thing is to answer your questions. It's very easy to write things down in the manifesto and use lots of nice words and have lots of promises. The promise both of us are giving is actually very similar. It's to have an inclusive new administration. The last 18 months has shone a spotlight on some of the inequalities we have on our island. It's been absolutely abundantly clear that although the economy has grown, there are still huge gaps that people are able to fall down if they have to quarantine for 2 weeks, if they suddenly lose their jobs. And we need to address those. In terms of the key priorities in my manifesto, they're relatively simple. One of them is about addressing intergenerational fairness. That's a very wide term, but it encompasses everything going from preschool education, education itself, healthcare, affordable housing, how we treat our young people, how we nurture our growing population, how we develop the new skills through lifelong learning, but also addressing social care. Because we know the demographics of our island, we know the demographics of most developed nations are tending to be a more elderly population. And it should not be the case that people grow old in fear that if they need the state to intervene to help them, to care for them, then they could lose their homes and they could become destitute or go into poverty. So intergenerational fairness is really important to balance those conflicting priorities, to make sure that we look after young working families in the same way and to the same priorities as we do older pensioners, to make sure nobody actually has to choose between eating and heating, particularly as we come to the winter, and especially now that we're dealing with a crisis in terms of the gas prices. So we're talking about a little bit about intergenerational fairness. The other big crisis, and there are many crises we're going to be facing over the next 5 years, so whoever gets in, good luck. But the next crisis is climate change. We need to address that, but we need to have that just transition. It's not actually in my manifesto, because I take it as read that the last administration passed the Climate Change Act, committed to spending money each year, committed to bringing people along with us as we transition to zero carbon by 2050. What I would like to see is an administration that actually puts the resources into doing that actually makes sure that you see the benefits of achieving climate change, to make sure that we have a unique opportunity to deal with fuel poverty, to deal with poor housing, whether that be rental or owner-occupied, to put the resources in to allow people to upgrade their accommodation, spend less on their heating, and remain healthy. And lastly, it's about investment. Now, Alf and I do have differences in terms of how much money we want to spend. But I would advocate that now is that rainy day that we've been saving our reserves for. It can't get any worse, although there are storms on the horizon. But we've lived through 18 months of real difficulty. Due to the last administration and all the measures that they brought in, which Alf has listed, we're in a far better place now than any of us could dreamed to imagine back in March last year as the borders were shut and the figures in terms of the expected deaths mounted. But now is the time to actually invest in the infrastructure. Going round door to door during the elections, people were actually worried about the normal things that affect their lives. Potholes, the state of the roads, the state of the education service, whether they could rely on getting a GP appointment, whether they would have to wait far too long for a hospital appointment and for operations. We need to put money into the infrastructure of our island, both the physical and the human infrastructure, if we are to develop our economy. Because as we move towards more of a knowledge-based economy, we have to invest in education, not just for people in school, but for everyone, so that they can increase their skills, reskill, and actually be in the situation to earn a better living for them and their families. We need to grow the active population. We need to actually have the environment here, both in terms of our physical environment, it's a beautiful island, but to make sure that people know if they want to move here, to take up one of the frontline jobs that are vacant, or to actually invest their time in providing the skills for all of the companies that are crying out for it, that there is affordable housing, that there is decent education for their children, that there is decent healthcare if they need it, and that they will be looked after and nurtured and respected by the government that they then vote for in the future. So there are huge hurdles ahead. There are huge obstacles coming our way. This winter could be one of the cruelest we've ever seen, both in terms of health, but also in terms of the economy. Not because of things of our making, but for things across the other borders. But what I do know is that there is that opportunity to harness the new energy that's been brought in by you to the House of Keys, to use the talents, the skills, and the enthusiasm of the new members, and hopefully some of the older members who are still there, to rebuild our democratic system. As a member of the last administration, as a minister sitting around Cannan for the last 18 months, I've seen the schism that's happened between government and parliament. I've seen some of the problems in terms of communication, both with mainstream media and with the people of this island. And that gap, unfortunately, has been filled by some misinformation from social media. But where else do you turn if your journalists can't have a face-to-face discussion with the Chief Minister or the Minister who just put out a press release? We need to rebuild that trust, rebuild that consolidation with the population and move forward. And we also need to make sure that the democratic process, both within Parliament and going out to local authorities, is invigorated so that we can all move forward together with a common purpose and hopefully a common vision. So I'm looking forward to tonight. Here is a chance to question us. I won't have all the answers for you though. The role of a Chief Minister has to change. The time when a Chief Minister dictated and organised are long gone. We've got far too many independent-minded politicians in Tynwald. I don't think they'll put up with that anymore. So the role of the Chief Minister, which is outlined in Alf's manifesto, is it a football manager or a player manager? That was one of the questions we were asked. It's probably a player manager. We have a role to play in terms of the governance of our country. We have a role to play in terms of developing policies and strategies, but we also have a role to play in terms of Chief Minister of selecting all the best minds, the best skills, the best attitudes, and the best attributes of what is now the most diverse Tynwald in our history, to bring them into government, to make sure that their voice is heard, and make sure their voices, when they disagree with the rest of the majority in Cannan, are respected. So we need to look at our collective responsibility again. We need to have that discourse both within Cannan and that questioning outside Cannan in Parliament. So I'm looking forward to tonight. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Allison, and I'm standing for the next Chief Minister.